Right. Can I ask the other speakers? So that would be Devin, Margaret, and Paul. If you guys could please also put on your cameras at this stage. Thank you so much. And go see. Beautiful. So it is just, where is Mukhadi Fafudi? That's the only person I'm not seeing at the moment. Let's hope she joins us soon. Okay. Right. Let's begin. Welcome everybody to this information joint session by the NYDA. It's going to be quite interesting. I think a lot of people have an interest in this particular topic because, I mean, we don't really know where we are, most of us anyway. So we've put together a nice panel for you that's able to bring you lovely information, and then we're also able to ask questions should we have any. But before we go on about the speakers and what they have for us today, we'll start with the Executive Deputy Chair of the NYDA, Ms. Karabo Mohale, to open for us, and then we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much, Mascole, and let me greet the young people of South Africa as well as our esteemed panelists. I think when you said joint session, when I saw the poster, I thought to myself, I really no longer qualify to be a young person, because the play on words then there was stay lit at the top, and I just thought to myself, these young people are just chaotic. But we really do appreciate all of you for joining today's session. It is an important session, and as you would have mentioned, there is a need for us to ensure that we provide a platform for there to be exchange of information, expertise, knowledge, and wisdom on how we can be able to get young people participating in economies that one would say, they are new economies, or even what they call emerging markets. And when we came up with this particular topic, it was really mainly because of the motivation, that came from the State of the Nation address from the president. He spoke so passionately about the cannabis and hemp industries, and we thought to ourselves, what is it that we can be able to do as the NYDA to ensure that we feed into the vision of the president, and to ensure that young people do not only hear about cannabis when the president speaks, and addresses the nation, but they can also be actively participating in such sessions where they can be able to exchange ideas and can also be able to ask questions around what is it that we can be able to do, how do we get access to some of these industries, where do we even start? I mean, when you speak about cannabis, gone are the days where cannabis, speaks to something else. It speaks to a natural resource that is going to shape and change the way our economy is built. And we need young people to be at the center of that trajectory. We need young people to actively participate. We always reflect that one of the major challenges that young people still face in South Africa, and which remains an inhibiting factor, is actually the high rates of unemployment. And we're sitting here and we're saying, what is it that we can be able to do? And I just want to appreciate all of the guests that have really lended us their time, their ear, on behalf of the National Youth Development Agency, to appreciate your presence, to appreciate that you're going to be sharing expertise, learned lessons in the industries that you participate in, and giving young people the relevant information on how they can be active participants, not only in their economy, but also in their immediate communities. There is an opportunity that exists. There is potential of employment creation. We need to ensure that young people get onto this bandwagon, young people get all of the necessary information so that they can be able to also meaningfully participate in the development trajectory of this country. So with those few words, ladies and gentlemen, I want to officially welcome you to our Stay Lit session, which is a joint session. We really do appreciate that even when there was a pun, in the play of words, you all said, yes, we definitely want to participate in this session. We just want to thank all of our participants that are going to be here, our various partners that have come on board. We really do hope that we can be able to build a sustainable relationship with the National Youth Development Agency. We're going to be having the director of the Cannabis Expo that we've been quite passionate about. We're going to be, and we're committing ourselves to continue because we also want to learn more out of the industry. Products.
Thank you so much.
Colleagues, I think my network just threw me out.
Your network was a bit wonky there, no problem. But I think,
from the South
thank
African
you.
Health Products Regulatory Authority, and we're hoping that all of the young people
Okay, it seems Karabo's having a bit of an issue with her network, but I'm sure she'll pop back in shortly. With that being said, and on that note, welcome to all the speakers. And we'll take it from the first speaker. But if I could just ask that the speakers keep themselves muted when they are not presenting. Lined up for those of you who have joined us, as Karabo Mohale, who's the Executive Deputy Chair of the NYDA, has said, is Mr. Silas Howarth, who's the Director for the Cannabis Expo. We've got Mr. Devin Laveau, or Livo, sorry, who's joining us from Grow Green. We've got Mr. Mpho Makado, who is coming from RevMed African Traditional Medicine. We've also got Mrs. Muhadi Fafudi, who is coming from the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, as well as Ms. Margaret Mulefe from the NYDA office. Thank you all for joining us. And thank you to all the young people of South Africa who have also decided to join us in this stream today. With that being said, let's go over to you, Mr. Silas Howarth from the Cannabis Expo. Firstly, welcome. Okay, you can unmute yourself. And secondly, welcome to this platform. Please tell us just a bit of background on the Cannabis Expo and what the purpose of that is.
So firstly, thanks for having me. Awesome to be here on this panel. Hi, everyone. Basically, Cannabis Expo, we launched in 2018, and it's the biggest cannabis event on the African continent. And we launched it with the aim of showcasing the entire cannabis industry, both internationally and locally, growing the industry, educating people about cannabis and the amazing, incredible, array of benefits that this amazing plant has and can provide, and of course, having a bit of fun along the way.
Of course, of course. Now, you told us that it started in 2018, but can you possibly tell us what the dates are and the venue for this year's Cannabis Expo? Because I'm guessing there are quite a few young people that are actually interested in joining such, myself included.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been pretty amazing. When we launched Cannabis Expo in 2018, we didn't know what to expect. You know, the Constitutional Court ruling had just happened in September then, actually, which really did, we feel it's quite a milestone in this country, as it really did start, the move towards legalization has been, ongoing and is still ongoing. But that really was very much a point where things have started to truly accelerate. And we were fortunate enough to launch the Cannabis Expo shortly thereafter. It had been a year in the making already, but and the results were incredible. We had tens of thousands of people. We had more people through the doors than we ever expected. This was in Pretoria. It was a relatively tiny show in comparison to what the Cannabis Expo is now. And it's amazing. So we've grown the show. We've now moved it from city to city around South Africa. So it's in the major hubs. I mean, that was in Pretoria. We then moved we had shows in Durban, in Cape Town, Johannesburg at the Sandton Convention Centre. And it's really grown to from being an expo to being a full-on expo, of course, with 200 plus exhibitor stands representing everyone across the industry, right through to there's a cannabis food market as well. There's a convention with panel discussions, with various stakeholders across the industry talking about important topics about cannabis in all shapes and forms, and cannabis legislation as well. And then there's even a festival outside as well, the Freedom Festival, with awesome music and DJs and bands throughout the day. So it's this complete mix of the entire cannabis industry, with the fun side, with food, with music. It's an awesome event, and I think you'll see. I know you did ask me about the dates, so I will go through to that now. Coming up, we've got in Cape Town, our show is toward the end of March. It's the 24th to the 26th of March. That's in Cape Town. That's going to be our biggest event yet. I'm super excited. In Durban, we're in July 28th to the 30th of July this year, and then back in Johannesburg at the Sandton Convention Center, 24th to 26th of November this year.
26th to the? Was it 24th to the 26th?
To the 26th of November. And in Cape Town, the 24th to the 26th of March.
That is Joburg. Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Silas Howarth. If everybody or anybody missed that, first and foremost, he's coming from, and he is the director of the Cannabis Expo, which from what he says is way more than just an expo. It's like a full-on festival with music. I'm sure there'll be other things that interest people, but obviously there's product stands and so forth, and food stands and what have you. And then the venues and dates for this year, well, the dates, I'll give you that for now, would be in March. The Cape Town one is happening from the 24th to the 26th of March, right? And then in Durban, it is the 28th to the 30th of July. And then in Johannesburg, it is the 24th to the 26th of November. Mr. Howarth, where can these people go for more information? So, for example, venues, venue changes, etc. Where can a person get information on the expo itself?
Yeah, super easy. Just visit thecannabisexpo.co.za.
Thecannabisexpo.co.za. Perfect. And in closing with you there, who actually should go to this expo? Who should attend this expo?
I think people who go to the Cannabis Expo for the first time are super surprised, firstly, at just what's on offer, and then you realize when you walk around the expo, it's my favorite thing, because you just see the diversity of the visitors who are actually at the Cannabis Expo. It is an adult event. It's over 18, but it's amazing to see we've got literally people from, there's people from all sectors of society, all walks of life, all there. There's business people in business suits, there specifically to do big cannabis business deals, and of course there's mingling with rusters and students and entrepreneurs, people, and guys, just anyone just actually wanting to, whether it's finding out about cannabis for your health, or finding out about how to get into cannabis business, or just someone interested in cannabis at all. There's very few events that I've seen that is just this complete melting pot of different people, all there, all together, all browsing, all having a good time, learning, participating, and all centered around this incredible, versatile plant.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mr. Howarth. That was Mr. Silas Howarth, who is the director of the Cannabis Expo. Thank you so much for the contributions there. Please stick around, because obviously we will have discussions and Q&A later. Thank you. Right. Next up, we've got Mr. Devin Livo from Grow Green, who's going to talk about the significance of using cannabis health products with us. So, Devin, how are you? You're on mute. There we go.
There we go. No, thank you so much for the intro, and thanks for the invite, and welcome to everyone here. It's great to be here. yeah, it's a very exciting space. I think that one of the misperceptions of cannabis for a lot of people is that it's just one thing. It's something that you smoke and you get high, and or that's what people use it for. But it's amazing seeing also at the different cannabis expos we've been to, the majority of them, it's that the wild diversity in the different products that can be created, the different applications that there are, whether it's for healthcare purposes, wellness, performance, or recreation, and some of the fundamentals as to how it works is what's super interesting for us. So yeah, I'm very excited to be here and sort of discuss what sort of opportunities there are for the young minds that are looking at this industry.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I hear that you have a presentation for us that you want to take us through. So I'd like to give you that opportunity to do that now.
Yeah, look, I was going to. I've got it ready. If we need to, actually, I'll just bring it up anyway.
Okay. No. Then in that case, let me just ask you a couple of questions. Then if you do need to refer to it, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, great. Okay, so take us through how or why one should use alternative medicines such as cannabis, because obviously I'm guessing Grow Green comes from a health perspective. So why one would go alternative instead of your standard stuff that you'd get from your Pfizers and so forth?
Yeah, so just a brief background on who we are. We've got a company called Grow Green Distribution, where we focus on working with different source and supply, manufacturers. But in the supply chain, you've got your farms, you've got your extraction companies, you've got manufacturing, and then obviously you've got the product development that pulls it through that value chain. And then we've got Nature's Relief, which we started in 2018, and that's really a retail consumer-focused environment where we wanted to create a safe space for people to come and engage and understand what cannabis product would be best for them. There's a lot of people talking about the use of cannabis or the use of natural medicines, and just like your question now, everybody's sort of saying why, or what is the big what can I use it for? Which one do I use? So I guess to answer your question, the fundamental difference is that your natural medicines and going the natural way works with a lot of like your plant materials that are that work more in synergy with the body. So compared to sort of synthetically processed things, even on the food side, if we're putting synthetics into our body doesn't necessarily recognize it. It can have various side effects and stuff like that. And more specifically in terms of medications, your medications are designed to be very specific. They go in and they force a change in the body, they do a particular function, and we can't discard that or discredit that. There is a big role that medicine plays, our modern science in medicine, but the use of natural supplements and the natural medicines is I think a longer term or a better use for longer term protocols, where you've got lowest risk of side effects. You've got more potential to heal the actual problem than just to mask the symptom. So from a long-term perspective, using the your natural side is generally a lot better. But when it comes to cannabis, it's a very interesting one because it kind of bridges the gap between the two. Because we've got what you call the endocannabinoid system in our body, which is a network of receptors, and our body produces endogenous cannabinoids. And that system is really designed to help regulate the body and bring it back to its natural state. Now, the cannabis plant produces phytocannabinoids that also are well recognized that will fit into these receptors that we've got. So we've basically got the infrastructure and to tap into this healing system. So we find that where natural products are sometimes, they're good in the long term, but they're not really effective in the short term. We're finding that with cannabis, we're getting, a lot of efficacy in the short term, as well as, a longer term safety sort of benefit. But the biggest emphasis is that, again, it's not a one size fits all. It's not everybody come and use a THC product and that's going to benefit you, it needs to be treated with respect. And I think what our focus is really on helping people get onto the right product, the right dose at the right time. But when we tap into that, we can really achieve some very good results.
Thank you so much, Devin. Beautiful. Now, I love how you said right product, right person, right time, etc. And one size doesn't necessarily fit all. But what types of products are we talking about here? So tell me, maybe you've got oils for people that suffer from this. You've got that for that. So what type of products does Go Green have actually that they put out to the market and work for certain things? You don't have to give me the whole list, not the whole portfolio, but just a summary overall would be fine.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult thing to summarize, but I think the easiest way to sort of consolidate it is we mainly look at the top 5 ailments that we've been seeing people come in with, and that's pain, inflammation, stress, anxiety, depression, your gut health issues, focus and concentration, and sleep. And those are some of the fundamentals that also filter into a lot of other healthcare aspects, and our health and wellness in general. If you solve sleep, you start already seeing some other benefits, in daily life and mood, etc. So we first assess what the primary ailment is. And one of the major things in the body, the major causes of a lot of disease nowadays is inflammation. So if we target that, for example, that also has a positive ripple effect. But then once you've assessed that, then it's about seeing, within your normal medication world, you've got different rates of onset, when you're taking a medication, how fast do you want it to be acting? Do you want it to be acting just locally, on a topical area, or do you want it to be going throughout the whole body? The body's got different absorption methods, whether it goes through your digestion, whether it goes through inhaling something, or using a suppository, or applying something topically. So really, based on the case there, we've got homeopaths that work in store with us, qualified, actually in a clinical way. They qualify to actually assess your actual medications and natural medicines, and then we can really understand, what is the best purpose. For example, if it's somebody looking for something that is going to be effective from 6 to 8 hours, we would probably give them a capsule that is more slow release, that lasts a longer period of time. Whereas if you need something that's fast acting, you'd look at an inhalable device, somewhere if somebody's having a seizure or something like that, you want a quick, rapid onset. So that's why I say there's a diversity, but we do drops, we do capsules, we do topical balms, we do inhalable products, and then also into some beverage options, powders, and that sort of summarizes the diversity in them. That makes sense. So I think you're on mute. Oh, there we go.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I noticed that. Thank you so much for that, Devin. And it does make sense. Thank you so much. Just for those of you that are on Facebook, please feel free to comment or ask any questions. I know a few people were like, hey, very interested. I'm seeing this, da 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 da. But you're more than welcome to ask your questions. Then we'll just table them down and then ask our speakers at a later stage. Okay, so feel free for that. Devin, you spoke about the benefits, and I love them. And I think, we've heard, if anyone has followed, cannabis health and whatever, they know what some of those benefits would be. However, is there anything in particular that probably would be a side effect that some people should be alarmed of? Should they, not actually get an assessment that, best fits them and whatever? Are there any side effects that are common, if you will?
Well, it's also quite a broad question for, the different products that you get, obviously, in cannabis. I think THC is being scheduled by SAPRA, and that's for an important reason. I think, it's something that changes your mindset or gives you a high feeling. So I would always say that that's a subjective thing. Not everybody is prepared to be in a different headspace, for one. But in general, from a side effect point of view, we more assess the medications that people are taking, because it's easy looking at a body, that is just on paper, these are your organs, this is what you've got. But the majority of people out there, a lot of people are taking blood pressure medication, cholesterol medication, psychosis meds, or antipsychotics. The range of medication is so diverse that I think we just try and make sure that if people want to use a cannabis product, that we lower the risk of any negative interactions or sort of things like that. But in general, cannabis's side effect profile seems to be very low. We don't see a high risk in it. It's just subjective, and it comes down to using the right dose at the right time. But there has been no overdoses on it. you know, it's safety. I think from a safety point of view, I think it's far safer than a lot of other medicines that you find out there.
Thank you so much, Devin. Yeah, go ahead.
You know, the one thing that we often refer to with cannabis, with it tapping into your endocannabinoid system, and that's a healing system that's sort of connected to all our 11 systems, is that, or 7 to 11 different views. But you know, we see more side benefits in the case where sometimes somebody will be taking a cannabis extract for sleep, but they notice the inflammation comes down, they've got reduction in pain. So we'll start seeing like some interesting other benefits as opposed to a lot of side effects, you know. And in general, that's been our experience.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Devin. In closing, on your end, just like you, firstly, let me commend you on sounding very knowledgeable of this. You sound passionate, you sound knowledgeable, which is great to see, especially if a person's putting stuff out there, you know. So thanks for that. But how did Grow Green, you know, become SABS approved? How did you guys manage to do that? Possibly even tell us possibly when you guys decided to get into the market, because you told us about you know, Grow Green, but you know, sort of timeline-ish things. How did that go about?
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey, I won't lie. When it comes to regulations, like I think it depends on which product we're trying to trade and in the manner that we're trying to trade it. And I think what we've done is we've really tried to align ourselves with the right value chain. You know, when we've got manufacturers that are compliant, that follow, you know, they've got their certifications, their standard operating procedures, and sort of try to line up depending on where we're trying to trade. For some export, for example, when we export products, we need certain documentation, we need certain requirements, and you know, there's different requirements based on if it's a you know, category D or a supplement versus if it's a CBD product. So you know, we don't manufacture, we mainly focus on the distribution and the retail aspect. So from a product perspective, we work with selected supply chains that meet the requirements that we need. And then from a retail perspective, we've established our standard operating procedures, worked with the regulators that we can, and employed qualified resources here to make sure that we're operating responsibly. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Devin. Thank you, Mr. Livo. Please also stick around. Guys, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop us any questions. And if you're directing it at any particular presenter, please let us know so that we can also ask them that when the time comes to, you know, ask your questions. Thank you so much, Devin. You can mute yourself there for us. Thank you. Next up, we're going to have Mr. Paul Makado, who's going to be discussing with us the journey of becoming a cannabis farmer. He is a cannabis boer. I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that for a second. So Mr. Makado is also coming from RevMed, African Traditional Medicine. Mr. Makado, welcome. How are you?
Thank you very much. Jumbut, is it Jumbut? Yeah, and all the speakers and those Silas, Mukhadi, and Devon, and Margaret, and Karabo, I see on their absentia due to the load shedding. Thank you for having me in this platform today.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you so much, sir. Now, Mr. Makado, you are a cannabis farmer. Can you tell us about this journey? When did this start? When did you become a cannabis farmer? And possibly what pushed you in that direction?
Okay. Actually, the cannabis farmer, it comes at the end. So it started with the journey of calling as a traditional healer, traditional activist. Was born in the family of healers. And when we look at cannabis have been used in many, many years before we were born, in centuries. So in the healing space, cannabis has been part of our medicinal, part of healing system. So why I went to the farming point of view, especially for cannabis, it's through the healing, so that we can have the proper medication of cannabis, where we can prescribe cannabis as a medicinal benefits for a lot of our patients. That's where it started. And then we follow the right processes, where you need to get the licenses, because you know that in South Africa, the regulation, you can't be farming cannabis either as medicinal or as recreational without being licensed properly or following the right regulation of the country.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Makado. Appreciate that. Now, can you tell us any challenges or lessons or successes that you've had? Because I'm going to come back to the journey of the traditional healing and how that intertwines with cannabis farming and such. But let's start with the challenges. Did you face any challenges? Were there any lessons? Were there any successes that you'd share to a prospective cannabis farmer?
Thank you for that one. Actually, I can say, first of all, I defeated what is challenge. Challenge, for me, I describe it as a fear. So I started to do things without being fear of failure, fear of anything that I don't have money, I won't be able to do it. Actually, it's also the lesson I believe we have young ones, youth who are looking into an entrepreneurial journey. So for me, I said, if I've got a dream or a vision, I need to follow it. Then everything else will come along the way, along my journey. So those are how I beat all those challenges, because whatever I wanted to do, I start, then I follow. I do follow up. When there's challenges in between, we resolve the challenges while we're moving.
Beautiful, thank you. I like the positive outlook on life. I wish all of us had that mindset. With that being said, I know that you also work with cannabis tea bags, if I'm not mistaken. How did that come about, and what are the benefits of these tea bags?
Actually, Devon have already actually explained more. The cannabis tea bags, through the journey, if you ask a question and say to Devon about the side effects of using cannabis, the biggest side effects of using cannabis is when people overdose it, more especially in terms of inhaling, drinking it. There are a lot of people who don't believe on smoking, who never smoke on their life, but they need the health benefits on cannabis. So that's where I decided that majority of people, they want to be using this product as a cannabis, but they don't want to smoke it. And the vision, as I say, then I dream, I visualize, I say, no, maybe if we dosage it and put it on the tea bags, then it will be good. So personally, I don't smoke, I drink it. And yes, it's a challenge to a lot of people and say, you are a farmer, you can't be telling us about the strains without you being smoking. So I said, no, I drink it. It's in grade A, it's this grade by drinking, so but the proper dosage. So why I do the tea is to make sure that people are getting the right dosage so that they can get all the health benefits in drinking.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Makado. Now, you said your journey started with traditional healing or being a traditional doctor. Then you branched over to the cannabis farming. How are these two intertwined? Because I mean, even in the traditional healing or traditional doctor realm of things, there are different people who do different things. So I would assume that you were a herbalist, or maybe I'm assuming again, you heal people in different ways. But then, what drew you to this particular herb, and that you're going to farm this one? Because I mean, there are many. Even during the time of COVID, I know there was this one, which was everywhere, and there was even a shortage of umhlonyane as a result of people using that. But where now you were drawn to this particular product, mind sharing some light on that?
Thank you for that. Actually, my background on healing, so I'm a dreamer. So the way I heal the world is through dreams and visions. So cannabis has been used, as I said, back in the days. I grew up, my mom, she used to put it as to prescribe cannabis to some of her patients, and that's where I learned. So, and I've seen many people in my practice being healed by the use of cannabis who are suffering from big chronic diseases. So that's why I decided that because of regulation, I need to do it in a single from other multiple herbs that we have. You touch about COVID. I contributed a lot in COVID, where we have a variety of herbs that we were distributing across the globe, from USA, UK, because when we talk about COVID as a pandemic, it needed an urgent solution and a brave and fearless people to, more especially in our African traditional space, because a lot of people, they were scared and pulling back. But I believe I stand out to say no. We need to save people with the knowledge of traditional medicine, and which we did across the globe. So I'm very proud to be talking in this platform, touching based in those space of African traditional medicine, including the cannabis space as a healing mechanism, or they call it an optional. For me, it's not an optional, actually, it's a go-to medicine. African traditional medicine, it's a go-to. And maybe to share with you, with partners with the institution like the universities in terms of getting this dream forward, including SAPRA, part of the body that has to overlook on what we are doing in terms of quality of the produce that we are producing in the pharmaceutical space, or in the cannabis as a medicinal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Makado. I might have dropped out there for a second. Not sure what happened with the network there. Thank you so much. Right. In closing, could you just tell us how other young people that are interested in becoming cannabis farmers, what advice could you give them, and how could they possibly start that journey?
Apparently, it's through knowledge. They need to, or interest, or willing. They need to be willing and have interest, and work with people that are knowledgeable in that space and follow the right regulations. I'm happy that we have Mukhadi who will advise them on how to start, and the procedural on getting themselves having the proper knowledge and way of doing things.
Thank you so much, Mr. Makado. We appreciate that so much. That was Mr. Makado, who is coming from RevMed African Traditional Medicine, who was discussing with us the journey of becoming a cannabis farmer. Thank you so much, sir. Moving on to legal. We must always consult with legal and regulatory. So we have Mrs. Mukhadi Fafudi, who is going to be speaking to us about how we can obtain cannabis permits and licenses. And she's from the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority. Mrs. Mukhadi Fafudi, welcome. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Mastlole, and good afternoon to everyone on the platform. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And yeah, I am not the popular presenter. However, I'm just gonna share what currently is in place in terms of cannabis. We speak broadly of the word cannabis. However, there are cannabinoids or substances that have got that impact or therapeutic effects or any other effects which are substantiating where it is regulated. In terms of my presentation, I will be focusing on the medical cannabis because that is the mandate of SAPRA. SAPRA stands for South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, and we are the national authority that ensures that all health products and medicines that are in the country with their claims, they are of quality, they are safe, and indeed they will perform what they are supposed to perform. They will be efficacious. If it's medical devices, they will be effective, or they will perform what they are supposed to be performing, also with complementary medicines. So when I speak about complementary medicines, remember we do have the complementary medicines, and then we also have supplements, which falls under complementary medicines. So in terms of the main interest when it comes to cannabinoids, that's more what I'll be speaking about. I won't be speaking about cannabis because it's a broad term, but I'll be speaking about the cannabinoids of interest that from SAPRA side, we have been seeing the interest and we have been regulating. So the South African Health Product Authority, we operate from the Medicines and Related Substances Act. That is our act. And then we have got regulations. So the act is Act 101 of 1965, and it has been amended on a regular basis. So always we say as amended. And we regulate health products or medicines. And SAPRA is the authority, which is we are an entity of government, as you'll know, of health, where we work with the Ministry of Health. So when we speak about cannabis and the cannabinoids, in particular THC, which is tetrahydrocannabinol. So tetrahydrocannabinol, at certain levels, it is internationally controlled because, as the previous speaker also mentioned, that there is a psychoactive component to it. And I just also want us to be realistic about that as well. So based on that, South Africa is a member state to the UN. And there are conventions of the UN when it comes to narcotic substances and psychotropic substances, those that have got a psychoactive component. So being a member state means that we are obliged, or we have committed to the conventions to say that we will conform, and we will, because we are a member state, we are a decision-making body as part of the UN, and therefore the decisions that are made there we will also implement. Member states are therefore expected to go into their countries, build regulations on how they will control the consumption. So member states will work on estimates on these substances, consumption, assessment of how these are used, and then they will report to the UN. This is what SAPRA in health is responsible for when it comes to medical and scientific use. And for medical purpose, we register, authorize, and also license facilities. So we register products, we authorize products, and we also license the facilities. And in terms of the Medicines Act, and also there's the Pharmacy Act as well, that ensures that proper people are working in those facilities, because we're speaking about the health of human beings. So now we need to ensure, in terms of the UN conventions, so is the UN Convention on Narcotics, there is also the UN Convention on Psychotropics. Also, there is a convention that prohibits illicit trade in narcotics and psychotropic substances. So we need to prioritize health and safety while we are minimizing the risk of diversion of these controlled substances, colleagues. And yes, indeed, we remember in 2018, following the Concord judgment, and the Concord judgment was saying that adults in their private space, they've got a right for personal use of this, or possession. So now, in terms of legislation, so there's the Medicines Act, there's the Drugs and Drug Trafficking Act, the Medicines Act, which regulate medicines. We needed to make certain amendments, and also to enable the cannabinoids for use for other purposes. So when it comes to non-medical use, like there are people who speak about, like for example, Cannabis derived products can be a whole lot, a range of multiple products, such as industrial purpose. Like, for example, if you look at low THC cannabis, there are various cosmetics can be produced from it, edibles. There could be a whole lot of products that comes from it. We know in particular that hemp can produce a whole lot of products, such as dashboards. It can produce building material. It can produce equipment, a whole lot of things that you can think of. Like in a room, you can think of clothing and textile, a whole lot of things, even shoes, for example. So what happens is that there were several stakeholder meetings that as health, together, SAPRA Health, together with other stakeholders such as health, agriculture, we therefore allowed agriculture to regulate hemp. So agriculture currently regulates hemp. So anything that is outside medical use and it's low THC will be regulated through other relevant stakeholders that regulates those substances. And then we also know of the that justice is responsible at the moment for the cannabis bill, and the Department of Agriculture also is tasked with the responsibility of helping develop a policy that will be suitable for South Africa through the master plan. So on the master plan, there are various role players, including your DTICs, the police, the Department of Science and Innovation, Education, Department of Justice. We are there, a whole lot, including non-government, business and civil society, and a whole lot of other stakeholders who can assist as to what policy decision is needed for South Africa when it comes to cannabis. Because for example, SAPRA is just one of those role players, but there are many enablers in this space. So when it comes to SAPRA, what we did, we amended our schedules to enable the use for other uses, such as I indicated, hemp. So what we did is that we removed the inscription of the cannabis plant from our schedules. And then what we did is that we regulate those, like THC, as I'm saying, that it's internationally controlled. So why we regulating cultivation, why we regulating manufacturing, for example, is because there is high concentration of THC. I'll give you an example of cocal, also of poppy straws, which produces muffins. We are expected to regulate those, especially when intended for medical use, because at their highest concentrations, they can be they can cause, if not regulated, remember, those are in their raw material forms, which can result into the illicit market, where people can be addicted, people can be dependent as well. So you don't want abuse, dependency, and addiction, because we are reporting on this. So in terms of CBD, CBD is listed as a Schedule 4 substance for medical use. However, what we did is that we load those CBD and those that don't make any medical claims. We have allowed them to fall under Schedule Not based on the limitations. And the reason why I'm giving this example is that the moment a person says this substance can cure cancer, this has to be evaluated for what it claims. It has to indeed prove that it will do that. And while it is doing that, it will also need to demonstrate that it is safe for use. So that is the purpose of the existence of SAPRA, to ensure that users benefit from products that are efficacious, they are safe, and they are of quality. Every batch that will be produced will be of a consistent quality. So now, at the moment, in terms of our licensing, so SAPRA does issue licenses for the purpose of medical use, and so far, in terms of licensing, we do issue licenses. And in terms of cultivation license, I would say that we have received over 300 applications. We have issued about 87 licenses, because when you apply, remember I said we need to report to the International Narcotics Control Board, which is a body of the UN. Even before we can allow it, the UN needs to accept that a quota or estimate, which we are saying per annum, South Africa will cultivate this much. Following that cultivation, this is how much the dried flower would be used. Where will it be used? For what purpose? If we are exporting, they will check with the importing country if indeed they need that. They want that from South Africa. And they further wants to know what formulations are going to be made from that. Like the moment you extract, which is manufacturing, what products are you going to produce? And then how have they been evaluated? And then for what are they treating? And then those that the waste, how do you deal with waste? So we need to account for the whole consumption of the substances that are derived, especially when there is high THC. So if it's low THC, that we don't report on. It's basically, that's why I'm saying cultivation with high THC, that for medical purposes will be under our control because we have an obligation to report. And then at the moment, those that we have issued licensed indicated that they will be exporting. And indeed, in terms of the export market, successfully, there has been exports from countries such as the USA, Portugal, Israel, Canada, Germany, UK, a whole lot, Macedonia, a whole lot, Switzerland, etc. So, but remember when we have amended our schedule, we were enabling the local market, as some of the people are indicating that they are producing for local. So, but if you are producing for local, you need to know which framework you are falling under and comply with that framework. So yes, I think maybe in short, okay, I spoke about the master plan, which is under agriculture. I think it would be nice also to have them on the platform where they will explain how, because their mandate is broad, because they need to inform a policy decision required for cannabis industry in South Africa. So they're following the priority areas that were identified in terms of support, the framework for support of the industrialization and commercialization of cannabis. So the cabinet gave the Department of Agriculture a mandate to ensure that they address issues of reimagined industrial strategy, whereby to help change in terms of the change in trajectory growth of the economy, where it needs to support the job competitiveness and job creation, and also improved industrial performance. So the master plan is the one that is looking at various lenses in addressing this matter, and to see how regulatory frameworks can also enable this. So in terms of licensing from SAPRA's point of view for medical purpose, we are currently reviewing our schedules because there are a lot of people who are saying the schedules can be more enabling. So we have requested for evidence of that, which is still we are still awaiting some of the information that can support that. And also we are reviewing the licensing as well to see. But remember, because we are accountable, if we have to relax licensing parameters, we need to make sure that, for example, science institutions will help support those small farmers, people who wants to be accommodated. So we need other institutions that can help, because when we account, we need, for example, you can't give 100,000 licenses when you are not going to be able to monitor, for example, issues of quality, safety, and efficacy, because we need to make sure that the bottom line is, if it's for medical use, we protect the public. However, we also need to remember that there are other functions which even a whole lot of people are mentioning the benefits which are not yet tapped into. So we need to, for example, the cannabis bill and the master plan as well, to help us to say where are the benefits locked. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Mukhadi Fafudi, for a very, informative presentation on the legislative framework around permits and licenses, the role of SAPRA, and so forth. But in summary, what I'm getting here is with regards to licensing and certifying people and giving people permits, SAPRA is only involved when it comes to medicinal purposes and therefore works with the Ministry of Health. However, if it is a matter of agriculture, then that would be with, thank you, Lauren, that would be with the Department of Agriculture. So if it is just growing it for non-medical purposes, such as hemp, etc., but also with that non-medical, it needs to be low THC, as of course you are governed by not only the Medicines and Related Substances Act, as well as the, what do they call it, the UN regulations. There are two you mentioned that you need to then comply with. Great, noted and well. It does, however, for a layperson like me, and that's leading to my next question, but it does seem like there's a lot of red tape here. Understandably, when you say that, you need to regulate it and you need to quality control it, but I'm hoping that the SAPRA that you represent actually sits down and considers the fact that affordability is also a thing. Because if you're going to now deal with the need of the South Africans and what South Africans need and whether it is, and if your scientists have sat down and calculated this thing and seen that actually there are benefits, which we all know there are, then obviously the market cannot be so tiny that only a few manufacturers have it and therefore can only give to a certain few, because obviously the affordability is a thing. So I just hope that in your considerations of compliance with the United Nations and compliance with the laws, you do also consider that people actually need to get healthy as well. Thank you so much. In closing with you there, Mrs. Fafudi, quick question. You've given us, that a person can obviously go to which department for what, but what exactly, where do I go for information to know what it is that is required of me to comply, to get a permit, to comply, to get a license?
I think the Department of Agriculture, SAPRA, can still be the contacts. We, for example, everybody, when they speak about cannabis, we are the first people that comes to mind. And we are always happy to refer where there is a need for referral. But I think we also need to acknowledge that there is still that with the cannabis bill, there is still a gap in terms of how cannabis can be better regulated in the country. So that's why I'm saying from SAPRA side, we are willing to be the contacts, but unfortunately, you find that a lot of people, SAPRA is not the right place for them, because the moment they come to us, they realize that no, this is not what we want to do. But we do have the complementary, like for example, the complementary at the moment. The complementary, we are not registering complementary medicines, but there is a framework that says if you are saying this is a supplement, this is the minimum requirements that it needs to meet, and this is the route where you need to apply through. And then and then when it comes to your orthodox medicines again, we also have a route, and then we also have a section 21 that enables therapeutic, like treatment by medical practitioners or physicians for their patients, where they say there is no alternative treatment, but there is a benefit here. So there is also that route. However, when you say you want to cultivate, we need to know, and for medical purpose, we need to know where your market is. So at the moment, we are currently also engaging with various stakeholders to say, okay, for whatever purpose, especially medical, where they are saying affordability. So those are the discussions that we are currently engaging to say, okay, how can we best be enabling? Those are the current engagements that, but of course, because the master plan is seen like it's a long platform. I mean, but this is one thing that the ministers as well don't sleep over, because as you have heard the president speech, so we are engaging as different divisions to see how can we best resolve this? Like as I'm saying at the moment within SAPRA, we are currently awaiting some information that says we need to amend the THC levels, for example, to be enabling, and also there's information that we need to say, okay, people who are cultivating for export markets, what purpose is that? Is that for private purpose? Is it for dispensaries? What is that? So because remember, we need to be focusing the discussions to the right market. So, but on our side, we are actively, there's no platform that we miss where we are invited, because we want to share our information. We want to learn what the public wants. How can we then come together and come out with a better solution for the South African regulation? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Fafudi. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. We're now going over into our discussion and Q&A. I've been allotted a cute little 15 minutes for this, 15 to 20 if we can push it, where we're going to go into the questions that the viewers are actually asking us. Okay, so I'm going to go with a general one because there's a lot of legislative stuff. We'll come back to it because I think you need a break, Mukhadi. But now, let me just start with a question that's general for the panel. One is asking here, so anybody can jump in and assist. This person says, how does cannabis help with seizures? So it's quite a general question, but it's like a medical one. So how does it help with the seizures? What does it do?
I guess I should jump in here. I've got one of our doctors. He's just next to us. He can probably get a bit more technical, but what we see is it really slows down the frequency of seizures, and it also some of the intensity during the seizure. It depends on the case, but yeah, we've seen a reduction in the frequency of seizures, throughout a week, as well as if you can get you get some inhalable sprays, like some various forms of it, it can calm down the seizure pretty instantly. Does that help?
Thank you, Devin. It helps a lot. Thank you so much. Also, this one is actually directed at you, Devin. They asked you, how does one acquire prescription for inhalable cannabis products?
That's quite interesting. We're actually working with a company pretty closely at the moment. In the coming weeks, we'll be able to help in that light. But at the moment, the majority of, the only real way to do it is to work through a doctor that's got a HPCA or HPCSA practice number. So your normal medical doctor, they can help you acquire Section 21 license to get an unregistered medicine. And then there's some great guys that have put together, the value chain from a licensed supplier to a licensed packer, making sure that all the quality control measures are catered for in the supply of the product. And then they can get it, they'll either deliver through a registered pharmaceutical logistics company, or they will do it. And so, or they'll have pickup points at pharmacies. So it's a very early stage in it. But yeah, I would say just reach out to us. We can put you in touch with the right people to help out in that regard.
Thank you so much for that, Devin. Thank you. A question, I think this one would be towards you, Mrs. Fafudi, is asking how much does the cultivation license cost? And another one is asking how long would the process be to get one licensed? So let's just put those together. What is the cost and how long does that process take for one to get their cultivation license?
Okay, but can I please also respond to the past two questions? Because as a regulator, we are the ones that approve those. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes. So what I want to say is that quality, safety, and efficacy is very, very crucial. You do not want a product that will be assisting you with a symptom and leave a permanent damage later on. So you've got one lever, and you don't want to be having a temporary reliefs. However, you lose your only one liver that you have. So that is just an example that I'm giving, that this is why SAPRA exists, to make sure that any claims that a product makes, it will fairly be evaluated for what it says. So I think we need to be very, very cautious of that. That is why we also have a healthcare system. We also have our National Department of Health to make sure that the public will be safe from the claims that are made out there. So, and we need to make sure that everybody goes through the loop, and there are no shortcuts that other people can take, and while other people are subjected to the hurdles. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure of that, to say that is the position of health. And then when it
Can I
comes
ask you a
to
question
licenses,
just on that? Is it possible for me to ask a question? Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to ask, in terms of for people that do want to get a prescription, what would you recommend, Mrs. Fafudi, if they need it short term, if they need it now, if they need to get a prescription, what would you recommend?
yeah, because remember there are clinical trials. So for if you are making claims that your company has got products that are able to assist with seizures, when you speak about seizures, this is neurological. You're speaking about neurology. You're speaking about um, the central nervous system, which speaks about your whole your brain, your spinal cord, and all that system. So there are the clinical trials that have been conducted. If there are no clinical trials, but however, what is the evidence, supporting evidence, that you are saying that indeed this product will benefit the population, and how safe is that? So that is why in terms of that, what I can say to this platform is that we've got different sections. We've got the clinical trial section that you can reach out to and ask for some advice. And then also we've got the registration department. We have got the complementary unit, which also comprises of various aspects. We've got section 21 as well. So we've from SAPRA, we have got various divisions which will be able to assist you in that. But remember, we've got your departments such as your science and innovation, your CSIR, your medical research councils as well. Those are very, very critical as well, because they are those are your research institutions, which can also be your quickest, because our researchers are of international recognition, and they can actually assist with some of the claims that are being mentioned, and they can even assist you in terms of some support on some of the claims that people believe in.
Thank you very much.
And then when it comes to licensing, at the moment, our licenses for medical purpose, we charge 25,200 rands. And what I want to emphasize is that when we come and do an inspection, we do an inspection based on who your market is, what do they require, and we go back and say, okay, based on what your market requires, will you be able to meet that demand? Then that informs how we will issue. We will look at the qualitative aspect, looking out on how you will be addressing the demands of your market, and how acceptable is that market in terms of safety, and also our reporting requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fafuti. Just a quick question on that, though. You said for medical purposes it is 25,200. Would that be cultivation? Would that be distribution, manufacture, or is that just general across the board? Whether you want to manufacture, whether you want to cultivate, where are we on the spectrum of?
Our licensing fee, regardless of where it is, 25,000 rands. So what is happening at the moment, as I indicated, that we are currently in discussions, especially with regards to issues of BEE. We are currently in discussions in terms of how best can we work on that. As I was saying, that we are consulting various platforms, but yeah, our applications across the board are that.
Thank you so much. And just the tag on or add on question to that would then be, generally, how long does this process take for one to actually get licensed
It
upon
depends on your
application? So
readiness.
let's say I apply and then, yeah, okay, go ahead.
It depends on your readiness, but it can even take between 4 to 6 months, depending on your readiness of your facility for what your market requires. But so far, we haven't turned down any application ever since we have received applications, because it's a new market, in new industry, and we believe that let's give people a chance to comply. But it can be as quick as your readiness.
Thank you so much. I think this might be a last question before we go on to the vote of thanks. But someone here said, and now I don't know, I'm guessing this would be for you as well, Mrs. Fafudi. It says, can I sell CBD gummies without a license if the CBD is low? I think that's what they said. Yes.
The purpose of use. SAPRA, we always come back to the purpose of use. So what is that? Is the gummy an edible, or is the gummy for health purpose? So that we will come in depending on the use of that, because we don't want a gummy that is going to make children see things when they are in class. So we just want to make sure that what is the purpose of that gummy, and it will be regulated like foodstuff would be regulated where foodstuff is regulated. If it's a complementary product, we will have to regulate it for, because what we do is that with our approved products, we have a monitoring system where we do sampling and we test the batches and see that they contain that which they say it contains with those quantities, just for the safety of the public.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Okay. There's another question coming in. Okay, no, I think that one has been captured. I'm not going to go on things that have already been answered to, such as how one accesses the market. To answer that, you either go to the Department of Agriculture or you contact SAPRA. Which route should I follow? Should I be following in terms regulations if I have this idea of making a hookah pipe flavor infused with cannabis oil? Ooh, okay. I think that one was also captured in that it depends also on the purpose and where you want to go with that. But I mean, that would be seemingly non-medical. So one would have to then consult, I would think, agriculture, but possibly also SAPRA. So I think go straight to those regulators first. There's another one. What is this one saying? Okay. Oh. Okay, this person is growing cannabis in their backyard and they use it for health reasons and benefit a lot from it. Okay, that was more of a comment. Okay, what are the procedures that one has to go through to be able to start to get a license? I think, again, we have captured that one. Just comments appreciating the platform. Okay, and this young man here saying that he sees that there is quite a bit of red tape when it comes to, but I feel like Mrs. Fafudi has explained why that red tape exists and that they are looking at, working to develop that. If I want to be a supplier to a company that makes medicine for health purposes, so I'm guessing that person is asking, what do they do if they want to be a supplier to a company that makes these medicines for health purposes? So I'm guessing they want to grow for the purposes of health, but now they don't know how firstly, I'm guessing they need the land, they need to grow, but then what are the steps to follow then to go to that company? Anyone could answer that.
So if I may come in, this is where I was mentioning that we are through the master plan. These are the discussions that we are having to say that when you speak about quality, safety, and efficacy, what we need to make sure is when we are enabling, let's look at the who can support this, because our responsibility is monitoring and ensuring that the public are safe. So on our side, we need other stakeholders like your research council, for example, your Department of Science and Innovation, and maybe even the DTI and others, to say that we can support those. We can help with like, for example, some researchers to say that we can help supervise and guide and teach some of these, and then this can be under us for support. And then from SAPRA side, when we issue such facilities with either permits or licenses, we know that the conditions under where they are working, they are supervised, and there are people who will be accountable for supporting them to ensure that what is produced from there would be usable, and it will not be, because there is resources that would be input there. So just to support them to ensure that they do the right things, because the country is too big, and SAPRA is such a very small organization. So we will need to hand in hand work together to ensure that we can support each other in terms of our, because the greater public, because remember now we're speaking about medicines. So for the best interest of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Fafudi. I have a question for you, Mr. Howard. The question is, how does one organize a cannabis social event in my hometown? This is coming from Eritabile. Testing.
Sorry, guys, I missed that one.
Okay, I'll repeat. The question is, how does one organize a cannabis social event?
Organize the Cannabis Expo itself is, I suppose, one of the, it's the biggest cannabis social events that you'll get there. To organize any cannabis or any social event at all, I suppose it's really just it's managing to get a group of people together. If you're doing it on the scale of the Cannabis Expo, of course, it's about a huge media campaign and marketing campaign to get everyone together. But certainly, I think cannabis events, big and small, are incredibly important to get the industry together and to get people together talking about this incredible plant. So yeah, from an organizational perspective, any way you can organize an event, whether it's literally 10 people having a discussion, a webinar like this, or a large-scale event like the Cannabis Expos, it's important and worth doing. If that answers the question.
It looks like we lost Masiqal.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Apologies that I was on mute. As introduced, my name is Margaret Molefe. I'd like to thank all the speakers and participants for a rather informative session. I think for a person like myself, the only thing that I knew is that there's a herb called cannabis, but to learn that there's so much more that can be made out of these products is very enlightening. So I hope that post this, we can get into collaborations with institutions like yourself that will train young people and also make the market accessible for them to trade. Further than that, we'll be running a competition where we'll be giving tickets away to young people who are interested in attending the Cannabis Expo. So if you are interested, please look out for our social media pages, and we will then announce the winners. So as understood, the expo is taking place in Cape Town, in Durban, as well as Johannesburg. So people like Tabile that are interested in running an expo in their hometowns, I think these are the type of people that we need to make sure that opportunities like this are for them. More than that, I think a lesson that I've taken away from this session is that we need to have a follow-up session and just discuss the issues around the regulations and licensing, because everyone would have an interest to go into the sector or to study it, to do research, or just to grow and be, a farmer. But the issues of regulation become very important. So I think we need a follow-up session for young people, for them to understand the processes better, so that they can be empowered going forward. With those words, I'd like to thank you once more for making the time to come to the session. To the participants as well, if you have missed any part of the session, you can watch it on YouTube as well as our Facebook page. The recording will be there even after this. With those words, I will then close this session, because I see our facilitator probably got kicked out due to load shedding, and we will come to an end. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.